Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And this week we've been doing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle films, and today is the 2016 action adventure comedy sci-fi Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. Here is your trivia question for today. What does Vern end up realizing he can sell to make a lot of money? The answer will be at the end of this video. At the start of this film, it is now 1 year later since the events of the last movie. The Turtles have decided to keep their identities a secret. So Vern gets very lucky as he ends up being the one known as the hero of the city, as he's the one who saved them all from Shredder. April, on the other hand, is using her investigation skills to track down a scientist named Baxter Stockman because she believes he's working along with the Foot Clan. Also, in this 1 year time span, the Shredder has grown facial hair and hair on his head. No, but seriously, Shredder is now being transferred to a more secure facility. One of the corrections officers in charge of this transfer is the Green Arrow, Casey Jones, played by Stephen Amell. Along with the Shredder, there are two other criminals that are also being transported in the armored vehicle, and that is Bebop and Rocksteady. A big heist chase scene occurs where the Turtles also show up in their souped up van. Now, during this process, we find out that Baxter is working along with the Foot, more specifically Karai, and he uses a teleportation technology to get the Shredder out of there. But while that is occurring, he gets transported somewhere else and ends up running into a talking big brain named Krang, who tells Shredder about his technodrome that needs to be transported from Dimension X into their world. Krang helps out Shredder take on the Turtles by giving him some mutagen to create his own mutants. So he uses the two thugs that helped him get out of the truck and changes them into a rhino and a warthog. April manages to sneak out some of this mutagen that was used, but on her way out, the Foot Clan manages to surround her. But the person who comes to her rescue is Casey Jones, who is now a vigilante. April then introduces Casey to the Turtles and their master Splinter. Yes, he's actually still in this film. The chief of police is also hot on the trail of the Turtles. So, with everything that's going on, will our heroes be able to save the day, or will the villains end up getting what they want and bring the Technodrome into our world? Dave Green is the director for this film. Pretty much all of the actors have come back to play the Turtles. Jeremy Howard comes back to play Donatello. Alan Ritchson comes back to play Raphael. Noel Fisher is once again Michelangelo. Peter Plozek does come back to play Leonardo, but in the first film, he was only just the physical performance, and it was Johnny Knoxville who was the voice. This time he does both. As Knoxville did not come back for this film, he's actually stated in an interview he was surprised that he was never asked to come back. As for Splinter this time around, Danny Woodburn would not come back to play the physical version of Splinter, but Tony Shalhoub would come back for the voice. This time around, the physical representation is done by Peter Donald Badalamenti II. Karai in this film changes from actress Mine Noji over to Brittany Ishibashi. Shredder would change from Tohoru Masamune over to Brian T. Also, this version of Shredder is supposed to resemble the one from the early 2000s animated series. Krang in the film is voiced by Brad Garrett, but the character was originally going to be going to Fred Armisen, who had to drop out. Here's something that I found interesting. Pat Fraley, who does the voice of Krang in the original cartoon series, is actually best friends with Brad Garrett and was very happy for him to get the role. Originally, there was a character in the film named Rita who was going to be April's boss. They ended up cutting the scene, which is unfortunate as she was being played by Judith Hoag, who was, of course, the original April from the 1990 film. The version of Bebop and Rocksteady that we see in this film is supposed to be modeled after the IDW Comics version. Stephen Farley, also known as Sheamus in the WWE, portrays Rocksteady in this film. But he was not the only actor up for the role. Apparently, Phil Brooks, also known as CM Punk in the wrestling world, and Billy Bayrer were also up for it. Elias Koteas, who played Casey Jones in the first and third films of the original trilogy, was asked to make a cameo, but he turned it down. Sam Rockwell, who played a foot soldier recruit in the first 90s film, was also asked to make a cameo, but turned it down as well. One of the original creators of the TMNT comics, Kevin Eastman, is actually the pizza delivery man that you see in the film. There's also another nod to Kevin Eastman, as the hockey stick that Casey Jones is carrying says Eastman on it. While sneaking through the police station, April has a fake ID. The name on that ID is Renette Tilly, who is actually from the comic books and is a time traveler. Michael Bay produced this film and the one that came before it, and they made a nice little nod to another film series that he made. As you can see in the Halloween parade, someone dressed up as Bumblebee from the Transformers films. Dean Winters plays a bartender in this film. Casey Jones goes in and causes a little mayhem in the bar and really messes it up. What's funny about that is just the year prior to making this film, he started his career as Mayhem, the character in the Allstate commercials. Speaking of that bar scene, did you know that the jukebox is playing Ice Ice Baby? Which is funny, as Vanilla Ice also made the song Ninja Rap from the second Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film. In a very quick blink and you'll miss it moment, when the Shredder is frozen and brought down into the Technodrome, there's a couple of other aliens you can see in some of the tubes. On one side of Shredder is a Triceraton, and on the other is a Neutrino. On the side of the tactical turtle truck, you can see the brand Tartaruga Brothers, which tartaruga in Italian and Portuguese means turtle. Before they went with Out of the Shadows, the original subtitle was Half Shell. That would have been terrible, in my opinion. Also, only 2 days after the first film was released, this sequel was actually greenlit. Now, unfortunately, they had plans for a third film, but this movie actually flopped, so that one was never created. So, when it comes to the film Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows, I did enjoy this movie, but I'll be honest, a lot of the plot was really bad. I actually really enjoyed the representations, though, of Bebop, Rocksteady, and Krang, but those were not good enough to give it a much better score. It almost got an even worse score for me, but I am going to give this one a 3 out of 5. Now, as for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode, what does Vern end up realizing he can sell to make a lot of money? Well, since he is the hero of the city, apparently people are willing to buy Ziploc bags filled with his own air, as he specifically describes it, his own hot air. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews. If there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments. And as always, like, comment, share, and subscribe.